The grand ballroom fell silent. More than 100 guests stared in disbelief as 7-year-old Theo Blackwell slowly walked away from the birthday cake. His father, billionaire Adrian Blackwell, smiled proudly. "Go ahead, buddy," Adrian said warmly. "You can ask for anything. Today is your special day." Theo nodded. Instead of asking for a new sports car, instead of asking for the latest gaming console, instead of asking for a vacation to Disney World, he walked straight toward the family's nanny. The young woman looked confused as the little boy gently held her hand. Then, with innocent eyes and a trembling voice, Theo asked, "Miss Emilia, will you be my mom?" The room froze. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the marble floor. The guests exchanged shocked glances. Standing only a few feet away, Adrian's elegant fiancée, Vivienne Ashcroft, felt her smile disappear. Her face turned pale. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Theo turned to his father, tears filling his eyes. "Dad, please, marry Miss Emilia." No one spoke. Not even Adrian. But how did the son of one of America's youngest billionaires choose his nanny over the woman his father was about to marry? To understand that, we have to go back 3 months. 3 months earlier. Since the death of his wife, Adrian Blackwell had become a man who buried himself in work. His mansion was breathtaking. His company was worth billions. His name appeared in magazines every month. But none of that mattered when he returned home every evening. The house was quiet. Too quiet. There was no laughter. No bedtime stories. No cheerful little footsteps racing through the hallway. Only silence. The only person waiting for him was his 7-year-old son, Theo. Theo had never been the same after losing his mother. He rarely smiled. He hardly spoke at dinner. Most nights, he sat beside the large living room window, holding the last photo he had taken with his mother. Sometimes Adrian caught him whispering to it, "I miss you, Mommy." Those words broke Adrian's heart every single time. He wanted to help his son heal. He simply didn't know how. Running one of the largest technology companies in the country meant constant meetings, overseas travel, and endless responsibilities. He convinced himself that providing a luxurious life was enough. Deep inside, he knew it wasn't. Theo didn't need another expensive toy. He needed someone who would sit beside him, listen to him, laugh with him, love him. A few months later, Adrian made a decision he believed would finally restore happiness to their lives. He became engaged to Vivienne Ashcroft. Vivien was beautiful, elegant, sophisticated. She carried herself with confidence and always looked flawless. To the outside world, they looked like the perfect couple. Business magazines praised them. Social media called them America's next power couple. Everyone congratulated Adrian. Everyone. Except Theo. The little boy never smiled whenever Vivien visited. Instead, he quietly walked upstairs and locked himself inside his room. Vivien noticed it immediately. "I don't understand your son," she complained one afternoon while adjusting the diamond bracelet on her wrist. "I've bought him expensive toys. I've taken him shopping. I've done everything." Adrian sighed. "He doesn't need gifts, Vivien. He needs patience." Vivien rolled her eyes. "He's old enough to stop behaving like a baby." She didn't realize Theo was standing behind the hallway wall, listening to every word. Tears quietly rolled down his face. That night, he hugged his mother's old sweater until he fell asleep. Days turned into weeks. Nothing changed. Whenever Vivien entered the mansion, Theo disappeared. Whenever she tried speaking to him, he answered with only 1 or 2 words. Whenever she suggested spending time together, Theo politely refused. Vivien grew frustrated. "This child is impossible. He'll embarrass us after we're married." Those words reached Adrian. For the first time, he wondered whether his son was the problem, or whether he had been expecting too much from Theo. One evening, Adrian visited his son's bedroom. Theo was sitting on the floor, building a small Lego house by himself. Adrian sat beside him. "Buddy, can I ask you something?" Theo nodded without looking up. "Why don't you like Vivienne?" Theo remained silent for several seconds. Finally, he whispered, "She never smiles at me when you're not looking." Adrian frowned. "What do you mean?" Theo looked down at the Lego pieces in his hands. "When you leave the room, she looks angry. And she tells me not to bother her." Adrian wanted to believe it was only a misunderstanding. Still, a tiny seed of doubt had been planted in his heart. The very next morning, he made a decision that would change all of their lives. He called his assistant. "I need someone special. Not just another employee. I need a nanny who truly loves children." He had no idea that one decision was about to change the future of the Blackwell family forever. The following Monday morning, the front gates of the Blackwell mansion slowly opened. A young woman stepped out of a taxi carrying only a medium-sized suitcase and a backpack. Her name was Emilia Hart. She wasn't dressed in expensive designer clothes. She wore a neat blue nanny uniform, comfortable shoes, and a warm smile. Unlike many applicants before her, Emilia wasn't impressed by the size of the mansion or the luxury cars parked outside. She only had one question for Adrian during the interview. "Before I accept this job, may I ask one thing?" Adrian nodded. "Of course. Does your son need someone to take care of him?" She paused for a moment before finishing. "Or does he simply need someone who will love him?" For the first time in months, Adrian smiled. At that moment, he knew he had hired the right person. Theo wasn't excited. He had already seen 3 different nannies come and go. Some lasted only a few days. Others tried to force him to smile. None of them understood what he was going through. When Amelia knocked gently on his bedroom door, there was no answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. Instead of opening the door, she simply sat on the floor outside. She smiled softly and said, "My name is Emilia. I'm not here to replace your mom. I'm just here in case you ever need a friend." Then she quietly walked away. Theo slowly opened the door after she left. For the first time, a nanny hadn't forced him to talk. Over the next few days, Emilia never pushed him. Instead of asking endless questions, she quietly included him in little activities. She baked chocolate chip cookies. She painted pictures. She built puzzles. She even flew paper airplanes through the living room. Theo watched from a distance. He wanted to join, but fear held him back. One rainy afternoon, Emilia sat alone building a giant Lego castle. She deliberately placed one block upside down. Theo couldn't help himself. He walked over. "That's wrong," he whispered. Emilia looked surprised. "Oh. Can you show me?" For nearly 2 hours, they built the castle together. When it was finished, Emilia heard something she hadn't expected. Theo laughed. A real laugh. It echoed through the mansion. The house staff stopped what they were doing. Some of them smiled. It had been years since anyone had heard that sound. That evening, Adrian returned home earlier than usual. As he entered the living room, he stopped in his tracks. Theo was chasing Emilia around the sofa with a toy airplane. Both of them were laughing. Theo accidentally bumped into Adrian. "Dad!" He hugged him tightly. "You came home early." Adrian looked at Emilia. "How did you do it?" She smiled. "I didn't. I simply listened." Adrian couldn't stop thinking about those words. Maybe that was all Theo had wanted all along. Someone willing to listen. As the days passed, the mansion slowly changed. Breakfast was no longer silent. Theo began eating with everyone instead of hiding in his room. He started drawing again. He even asked Adrian to join him for movie nights. For the first time since losing his wife, the mansion felt alive. But not everyone was happy. One afternoon, Vivienne arrived unexpectedly. She entered the garden wearing an elegant white dress. From a distance, she saw Theo and Emilia sitting on the grass. Emilia was helping Theo plant flowers. Both of them had dirt on their hands. Theo was laughing so hard that he nearly fell over. Vivien frowned. She had never seen Theo smile like that. As she walked closer, Theo noticed her. His smile disappeared instantly. He quietly moved behind Emilia. Vivien forced a smile. "Theo, aren't you going to say hello?" Theo lowered his head. "No." Vivienne's jaw tightened. When Emilia gently encouraged Theo to greet her politely, he whispered, "She doesn't like me." Vivienne laughed awkwardly. What a silly imagination. But Emilia noticed something. The smile on Vivienne's face never reached her eyes. That evening, Vivien confronted Adrian. "I don't think this nanny understands her place." Adrian looked confused. "What do you mean?" "She's getting too attached to Theo. And frankly, I think Theo is becoming too attached to her." Adrian remained calm. "Isn't that what we wanted?" Vivien crossed her arms. "No. We hired an employee. Not someone who's becoming part of the family." Those words lingered in Adrian's mind. For the first time, he noticed the difference between the two women. Vivien wanted control. Emilia offered kindness. A few days later, Emilia found Theo sitting quietly in the family library. He was looking through an old photo album. Inside were pictures of his late mother. Emilia sat beside him. Without saying a word. After several minutes, Theo pointed to one picture. "My mommy used to read to me every night." Emilia smiled. "She must have loved you very much." Theo nodded. "I still wait for her sometimes." Emilia's heart ached. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay to miss her. You don't have to stop loving her." Theo looked up. "Would she be angry if I loved someone else too?" Emilia felt tears forming in her eyes. "No, Theo. I think she'd be happy that your heart still has room for love." Theo quietly hugged her. Neither of them noticed. Vivien was standing outside the library door, watching everything. Her face darkened with jealousy. She pulled out her phone, smirked, and whispered to herself, "If that nanny thinks she's taking my place, she's about to learn who she's dealing with." The next morning, Vivienne Ashcroft woke up with only one goal in mind. Emilia Hart had to leave. She had watched the way Theo smiled around the young nanny. She had noticed the way Adrian looked at Emilia with quiet admiration. Every day Emilia remained in the mansion felt like another day Vivien was losing everything she had worked for. She wasn't going to let that happen. When Adrian left for an important business meeting, Vivien saw her chance. She walked confidently into the kitchen where Emilia was preparing Theo's favorite pancakes. Vivien folded her arms. "So, you're enjoying yourself here?" Emilia smiled politely. "I love taking care of Theo." Vivien's smile disappeared. "Don't confuse your job with becoming part of this family. I'm simply doing what I was hired to do." Vivien stepped closer. "Listen carefully. After Adrian and I get married, you'll be gone. You'll never see Theo again." Emilia remained calm. "If that's what Mr. Blackwell decides, I'll respect it." Vivien expected fear. Instead, she saw confidence. That made her even angrier. Unknown to both women, Theo had heard everything. He stood quietly behind the hallway wall, hugging his stuffed bear. Tears rolled down his cheeks. That afternoon he didn't eat. He didn't play. He stayed inside his room. When Emilia knocked gently on the door, he finally whispered, "Promise me you won't leave." Emilia smiled softly. "I can't promise what tomorrow brings. But I promise that as long as I'm here, you'll never face anything alone." Theo hugged her tightly. For the first time since losing his mother, he felt safe. Days passed. Theo's 8th birthday finally arrived. The Blackwell mansion looked magical. Colorful balloons floated across the ceiling. Fresh flowers decorated every table. Friends, business partners, and family members filled the grand ballroom. Emilia had spent hours helping the chefs prepare Theo's favorite foods and making sure every little detail was perfect. When Theo saw everything, his eyes sparkled. "This is the best birthday ever," he whispered. Adrian smiled. Seeing his son genuinely happy was the greatest gift he could have received. Across the room, Vivienne watched silently. She noticed something that made her stomach twist. Theo barely left Emilia's side. Whenever he laughed, he looked at Emilia first. Whenever he needed help, he ran to Emilia. It was as though the mansion had already chosen who truly belonged there. As the birthday party came to an end, Adrian stood beside the giant cake. "My son," he said proudly, "today is your special day. You've been so brave, so kind, and I'm proud of the young man you're becoming." The guests applauded. Adrian smiled. "As always, you get one birthday wish. I'll do everything I can to make it come true." Everyone smiled. Some whispered that Theo would probably ask for a sports car. Others guessed he wanted a family vacation. Theo slowly climbed down from his chair. The room became quiet. He didn't walk toward his father. He didn't walk toward the gifts. He walked straight toward Emilia. She looked surprised. "Theo." The little boy gently held both of her hands. His voice trembled. "Miss Emilia. Will you be my mom?" The entire ballroom froze. Several guests gasped. One woman covered her mouth in shock. Emilia felt tears fill her eyes. "Theo." Before she could say another word, Theo turned toward Adrian. "Dad. Please. Will you marry Miss Emilia?" Silence. Complete silence. Vivienne's smile vanished. "This is ridiculous," she shouted. "I'm your fiancée. You can't let a child decide your future." Theo hid behind Emilia, frightened by Vivienne's outburst. Adrian looked at his son. Then at Vivienne. Then back at Emilia. He took a deep breath. "Theo. Thank you for telling me what's in your heart." He knelt beside his son. "But marriage isn't a birthday present. It's a decision made with love." Theo lowered his head. "I'm sorry, Dad." Adrian hugged him tightly. "You never have to apologize for speaking honestly." Vivienne expected Adrian to defend her. Instead, he stood up and looked at her calmly. "Vivienne, I think we need to talk." That evening, after the guests had gone home, Adrian and Vivienne sat in the library. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Adrian broke the silence. "I've been ignoring something for months." Vivienne folded her arms. "And what's that?" "My son has been unhappy. And instead of trying to understand him, you blamed him." Vivienne scoffed. "He's just a child." "No," Adrian replied quietly. "He's my child. And he deserves someone who loves him for who he is, not for the Blackwell name." Vivienne realized what was happening. "So, you're choosing the nanny over me?" Adrian shook his head. "I'm choosing my son." Their engagement ended that night. Vivienne left the mansion without saying goodbye. Months passed. Life became peaceful again. Adrian spent more time at home. He joined Theo and Emilia for breakfast. Weekend picnics. Movie nights. Board games. Without realizing it, the three of them had become a family. One evening, Theo fell asleep on the couch after movie night. Adrian covered him with a blanket. He looked at Emilia. "I don't think I ever thanked you. You brought laughter back into this house." Emilia smiled. "Theo did that." Adrian shook his head. "No. You reminded both of us how to live again." That was the moment everything changed. Over the following months, friendship slowly grew into love. Not because of a birthday wish, but because they had built trust, respect, and happiness together. Almost 1 year later, on Theo's 9th birthday, Adrian invited Emilia into the same living room where Theo had made his unforgettable wish. Theo stood nearby with a huge grin on his face. Adrian reached into his pocket. He knelt on one knee, held out a small velvet box, and smiled. Emilia Hart, you've already become the heart of this family. Will you do us the greatest honor and become my wife? Emilia covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. She looked at Theo. The little boy nodded excitedly. Please say yes. Laughing through happy tears, Emilia whispered, yes. Theo cheered louder than anyone else in the room. He wrapped his arms around both of them and cried. My birthday wish finally came true. As the three embraced, Adrian looked at the family they had become. He realized that the greatest gift wasn't wealth, fame, or success. It was finding love again, and giving his son the home he had been longing for all along. Before you go, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another emotional story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.